Hello, my name is Joan Gonzalvo. I'm the director of the Ionian Dolphin Project run by Tethys Research Institute, and I'm going to talk in this presentation about 30 years of marine mammal research and conservation in Western Greece. All this work that I'm going to present here, of course, has been or is being carried out in the context of the Ionian Dolphin Project. So our project is located in Western Greece. Here you see more or less what is the location of our work. We are operating in three different study areas. All three of them are Natura 2000 sites. From north to south, we are working in the Paxos and Antipaxos island and surrounding waters, which is our newest area, in the Gulf of Ambrosia, where the only species of cetacean present is the bottlenose dolphin, and in the inner Ionian Sea archipelago, where we are studying common dolphins, bottlenose dolphins, as well as the Mediterranean monk seal. So our goals are to identify the most significant threats affecting marine mammals in coastal waters in Western Greece, and to produce sound information in order to trigger adequate conservation measures in order to secure the survival of these species in these increasingly fragile waters. The species we're dealing with are the common bottlenose dolphins, that I will refer from now on as bottlenose dolphin, which is considered vulnerable, but in a recent assessment by the IUCN that has to be accepted yet, but is under review, has been recently proposed as a species of least concern. The other species that we're dealing with are the common dolphin, the Delphinus delphis, which is considered endangered in the Mediterranean, and of course the Mediterranean monk seal, Monachus monachus, which also is considered endangered and is one of the most endangered marine mammal species in our planet. Occasionally, we also have sightings of striped dolphins, which are considered by the IUCN as vulnerable in the Mediterranean. Although the same recent assessment I was referring to you earlier has proposed that this species is considered of least concern also. So we apply to conduct our work, we apply different research methods, including boat-based surveys, photo identification, which basically is a technique in which we take photos of the dolphins or the marine mammals that we encountered at sea, and based mainly on long-term natural marks such as notches and nicks in the dolphin dorsal fins, we can identify every single individual. Additional marks observed in other parts of their body are also considered. In the inner Ionian Sea, we use also photo identification to study the monk seals, and not only from our boat taking photos, but also using UAVs or drones to have footage or high quality images of their backs on the top of their heads, where most of these scars are found. Additionally, we also conduct monitoring of fishing effort and landings to look at the impact that fisheries might have in the area. And of course, interviewing fishermen provides a very valuable information on the ecological knowledge that these fishermen have. Let's not forget that fishermen are spent most of their lives out there to conduct their work, and they accumulate a lot of information that can be very valuable in order to understand how ecosystems function and how is the history of a specific area. New technologies, also like UAVs, passive acoustic monitoring, and autonomous monitoring systems with cameras, that I will refer to them later, are also, and I will talk now about the inner Ionian Sea archipelago, where the species we're dealing with are the common dolphins, the bottlenose dolphins, and the Mediterranean monk seal. So based on the monitoring conduct in local fishing fleet and by using ecosystems modeling approaches, we have been able to show how reduced the prey availability is as a consequence of intensive fishing pressure. So overfishing has had a very strong impact in the area, and is one of the reasons, if not the main reason, behind the sharp decline that we observe in the common dolphin population. The biomass removed by fisheries in the area was evaluated through direct observations, primarily during the years 2007-2008, and we were able to establish that purseaners, which are about 3% of the total fishing fleet, are removing about 33% of the total biomass, and are those that are causing the greatest impact on common dolphin prey. Some fishing boats operating in the area have permits to use multiple fishing gears, which this results on year-round pressure on fish stocks, because a certain fishing boat that might be operating for a certain period of time as a bottom trawler, when the season for bottom trawling stops, they change their fishing gear and they actually operate as purseaners. Therefore, they are active year-round, which is basically the opposite effect that we are aiming to when proposing closures for certain fishing gears in certain areas. There was a sharp decline on common dolphins, as we said, as a consequence of overfishing. And initially, the idea of emigration or long-range movements as a consequence of this decline was rejected, based on the fact that surveys outside of the study area provided no evidence to support a shift in distribution on the species. However, recent observations indicate that the formerly high resident population of common dolphins has expanded quite dramatically their home range, looking for those resources that they cannot find anymore locally. So their home range has expanded quite importantly. And now we can find the species as far as north of Corfu, or these dots that you can see in this map. These dots actually refer to sightings that have been provided to us through our website, ioniandolphinproject.org, in which boaters and sailors can easily online report their sightings to us. And that helps us to get information on the distribution of cetaceans and marine mammals across the area. And now we move to the Gulf of Ambracicoss, which actually has one of the highest densities of dolphins, of bottlenose dolphins in the Mediterranean. The Gulf of Ambracicoss is this inner mass of water that has a very narrow entrance and a very limited connection with the open sea, which is represented here in this satellite image. This is the mouth of the Gulf. The only connection with the open sea is the channel of Preveza, which is as narrow as roughly 300 meters wide and is as shallow as 20 meters or so. The only input of fresh water in the system, or the main inputs of fresh water in the system, are the rivers Louros and Araxos that you can see in this footage, but the water flow, the flow of fresh water has been quite dramatically reduced, also as a consequence of building dams and so for irrigation of the harvest fields and to generate hydroelectricity. Fish farming has also an impact. There is intensive eutrophication in the water, so accumulation of organic matter, and this is basically consequence, or mostly consequence, of poor sewage treatment in the area, plus quite intensive fish farming, which also contributes with further organic water in the ecosystem. The increasingly degraded conditions of the water of the Gulf might be causing or altering the epidermal integrity of bottlenose dolphin in the Gulf. So we have conducted studies that have been able to demonstrate that there is a significant part of dolphins in the area manifesting epidermal conditions, which might be consequence of the depletion of their immunologic system as a consequence of pollution and other sources of water degradation. The Gulf of Ambracicoss is a Natura 2000 area since year 2001, but originally this Natura 2000 area site was primarily concentrated in the northern side of the Gulf, where there are the marshes of lagoons that were considered important or are considered important for seabirds in the area. A recent review also of the Natura 2000 areas in Greece resulted on the expansion of the Natura 2000, and now the Natura 2000 covers the whole of the Gulf and makes particular mention to the importance of the area for Tursiops truncatus, bottlenose dolphin, and for Caretta caretta. This is largely thanks to the research efforts conducted by Tethys Research Institute in the past 20 years in the area. So the Gulf of Ambrosia has a stable resident population of about 150 dolphins, and they thrive in the Gulf because prey is abundant and competition is low. By competition being low, I refer to the fact that only small-scale fisheries are allowed in the Gulf, and those large fishing boats that are mainly the consequence of the cause of overfishing in the area that we just discussed, the Inner Ionian Sea Archipelago, are not able or are not allowed to operate inside of the waters of the Gulf. So while local density of dolphins is among the highest recorded anywhere else in the Mediterranean Sea, this is not indicative of a favorable conservation status. The highly resident population of bottlenose dolphins in the Gulf is at risk due to their small population size, to their very likely reproductive isolation, as well to acute and growing anthropogenic impacts. An assessment of the population of bottlenose dolphins in the Gulf of Ambrosia, which has been recently accepted by the IUCN, by the International Union for Conservation of Nature, which has accepted the designation of the population of the Gulf, of the bottlenose dolphin population of the Gulf, as critically endangered. This is very recent, is still in press, and should be officially published within the end of this year, 2021.